Hi there, and welcome to our weekly craft, a source for ideas, inspiration, and fun for crafters. I'm Sarah White, chief maker at ourdailycraft.com, and today I want to talk about comfort crafting. The world is kind of weird right now in all sorts of ways, from the shooting in Texas to, our abortion rights probably being taken away sooner than we anticipated, to still being in this COVID-y time. And it's the first day of summer here, summer break here, and it's rainy and cold, and it just, everything feels kind of yuck. And so I wanted to talk for a minute about like what you do in those times, because we still need crafting, right? We need to make stuff. It's part of who we are. But it's hard to like be really inspired when you feel like this too. I mean, sometimes, we talked about craftivism a couple weeks ago, and sometimes it is like the hardships are inspiring and will make you want to do something and make something and share with the world, but not always. Sometimes you just want to like curl up with something comforting. So that's what I want to talk about today. I'm wearing my rainbow stash stripe sweater. I think that's what it's called. Rainbow stripes Rainbow stash stripe sweater. I'll put the right name in the link in the show notes, but it is from Crafts Every Day, I think. Gosh, obviously not prepared today. But this is really cool, like a rainbow. You don't have to do rainbows, you don't have to do stripes, obviously, but I thought because the original was rainbow stripes that I would try to do that. I wasn't sure that I had enough yarn to do straight rainbows, so I used this sort of yellow as the neutral between the stripes, and I really like it. I don't usually wear this much yellow, but it's kind of fun and it makes me feel good when I wear it, and it's cold today, so you get to see a new sweater that I wasn't sure I was going to get to share the finished project with you, because it's the end of May, right? I also brought with me, and I'm going to be winding while we're talking, this yarn, which is just, I think it's Knit Picks Bear, that I dyed with the leftover tie-dye dye from my daughter's birthday party last year. We did a tie-dye party, and after the girls had made their shirts, there was some leftover dye, and so I just sort of made kind of a rainbow effect on the yarn, and I'm going to wind it up because I think this is going to be one of my vacation projects, is making some socks with this yarn. And I'll just do a toe up, simple, two at a time if I can, so that I can use as much of it as I can. And I'll probably do like a really simple, maybe not stockinette foot, but maybe something like a moss stitch or something else easy to give it a little bit of texture and break up the colors. But I think the colors are going to be broken up just fine because, they're small runs of color anyway. So I might just have to swatch it and see, get started and see what happens and what I like. And again, that's sort of, and how I'm feeling about it, right? Because, what do I feel like I have the bandwidth for? If I need something super simple, I might just do stockinette. And if I feel like I can handle a little bit more of a pattern and thinking things through, then I can do something a little more complex. But that's so a thing you kind of need to know about yourself when you're doing comfort crafting, or when you're stressed out or feel like you need a project just to do. Are you looking for comfort? Are you looking to take your mind off something? Do you need something mindless? And it can go both ways. You can kind of want both at the same time, right? That you're making something to take your mind off of all the stuff that's going on, but you can't give it a lot of attention, right? So, maybe it's a step up from garter stitch or stockinette, but it's not, maybe it is moss stitch or seed stitch or ribbing or something where you have to think just a little bit, but it's not like a full-on lace pattern that you have to pay attention to every stitch of every row and really know what you're doing the whole time. But sometimes it is I need a full-on distraction, and I'm gonna do, you know, 2-color brioche with shaping and, you know, lace that's got pattern on both sides, or, you know, an Aran sweater or whatever. Or if you're not a knitter, obviously that's all knitting kind of things. It's like the difference between doing a, you know, sewing a skirt with a elastic waistband, or doing a full-on like fitted dress with darts and a zipper and all of that stuff. So to an extent, when you're choosing your comfort project, you need to know yourself and how you're feeling, and how, if you're wanting that full on, something that really requires your focus and attention to take you away from whatever stuff is happening in the world, or if it's just, I need something peaceful and soothing and easy and repetitive, and that I can watch in front of the TV, or that I can work on in bed, or, you know, whatever it is that you feel like you need. So I have some kind of easy blankets that I've been working on for years. So one is a 6 foot long, and I'm hoping someday it'll be 6 feet wide, but it's nowhere near that at this point. Well, I think it's about 3 feet wide at this point. But I haven't worked on it in a long time, so I'm not really sure. But it's just strips of garter stitch, and it's you know, like oddballs. So they're varying widths or lengths of color, and I'm alternating like a stripe that's 12 stitches wide and a stripe that's 24 stitches wide. And so there's a little bit of variation in there, and then you just pick up the stitch along the edge of the previous, so that you don't have to sew them together at the end. You're just picking up the edge stitch and knitting it together with the last stitch of the row to join it to the original stripe. And so that's the only part you really have to think about, is to make sure you're doing your joins. I also have, like, I ended up with a weirdly large stash of homespun Lion Brand, which is kind of fuzzy, and usually knitters and crocheters have like very passionate opinions about homespun. Some people really like it, some people really hate it. I am ambivalent, leaning toward dislike. I like the feel of it is nice, but working with it is not the best. And so I'm making a paneled, excuse me, a paneled garter stitch blanket out of some of that too. I think it was, I did a knitting class for a advertising agency that was doing some work for Lion Brand, and they wanted to like play with the yarn and learn a little knitting and stuff. And then the Lion Brand had sent them like boxes of yarn, and they're like, we don't know what to do with this, do you want it? And I said, okay, sure. And so there were like a bunch of bags of 3 balls each of different colors of homespun, and so I'm just using some of them, you know, making panels like yay wide as long as it goes. So that's another like super simple, mindless, and then the texture of the yarn is kind of fun. So, you know, that may be another consideration if you are a knitter or crocheter. You know, if you make your own yarn, if you're a spinner, a weaver, you know, that this, and even for sewing and other things, but this might be the time when you want to break out your really nice stuff, something that's really, you know, it might be time for the mohair or the cashmere, you know, or that really nice fabric you've been hoarding, you know, whatever, or just something that feels, you know, has an interesting texture that feels good against your skin while you're working it. I like blankets, as I was mentioning, because like that, the first one, the strip blanket, is big enough at this point where you can kind of lay under it while you're working on it, which is kind of nice. This piece that's just not attached, and I've been moving it around, trying to work around it, because I thought it was part of the skein, and it's not part of the skein anymore, but it's very pretty. Look at that. I love it. Anyway, aside, you know, and that's sort of why I'm getting into this. Like, this is a project that I've been meaning to do for almost a year now, and this yarn's just really pretty, and so I think, you know, taking into consideration the aesthetics of your project in addition to the skill level and that sort of thing is also important at this time. And I mean, these are things we should always be thinking about, right? We want to work with nice stuff. We want something that feels good and a process we're going to enjoy. And you should always be considering, well, do I want a simple project? Do I want something complicated? Whatever. But I feel like when times are hard and when things are a lot in the world or in your family or whatever, that it's like even more important to not just like slog through whatever project you happens to be working on at the time, and to really like treat yourself to what you really do want to be working on. So that's like a form of self-care too, right? That you're creating something that you really want to be creating, because if the world is full of things that you can't control and that are ugly and hard, and you don't want your creative time to also be hard or stressful or like homework because you're just trying to finish this project that you were working on before. I give you full permission to start a new project and for it to be your like hard times project. I knit a sweater. Like I had my former boss died over the summer, and it was unexpected and hard, and I happened to have just bought myself a bunch of Yarnacorn. I don't know if I wore the sweater at some point in one of these previous episodes, but Yarnacorn is like it's We Are Knitters, and it's pink with like pastel flecks in it. It's almost tweedy, but not really. And it's just really fun, silly yarn. And so that was the project. I mean, I was kind of going to do it for my birthday anyway, but that was sort of my morning sweater because it was just a simple, it's Metropolis by Tanis Lavely. Was the sweater that I made, but it's basically just, miles of stockinette and kind of a bulky yarn, and it's super simple, and the yarn was soft and squishy and nice, and the colors were fun, and it made me smile, and I needed all of that at that time. And so I fully encourage you to cast on a morning scarf or a there's trouble in the world shawl or whatever you need that sounds good to you. Don't feel like, even if you're the kind of person who tends to work one project to its fruition, which I don't understand, but I know that there are people like that, if that's your way, give yourself permission in this, when you just need the comfort of a simple project and you don't have a simple project on the go, I give you permission to find like beacon or cross stitch and do like a little 8-bit character of your favorite whatever, make it a magnet, stick it on your fridge so it'll make you smile every time you go by, or whatever equivalent in your world is. And I do think that it's valuable, if you're making something for comfort, to have it be something that you can see or something that you're going to wear regularly or use in your life. I just saw today that Mason Dixon Knitting is doing a washcloth knit along in July, I think, but I can link that in the show notes as well. But it's that might be a thing. You just want to knit washcloths. You take all your scraps of cotton and knit washcloths and have that be your thing, and then you're reminded, of that comfort that you got from knitting those simple things whenever you are doing your chores. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. For me, it is, I like simple projects in any case, but when things are hard, I especially want something that's simple. Like I've been toying with the idea of re-knitting the top of that Achu sweater that I was working on, and now is not the time for that. I may still do it. That project's been on hold for a while, and I may decide that I want to do that. I mean, I think that I do want to do that, but it's just like, I know that it was hard. Like, it wasn't hard, but it took focus that I don't feel like I have right now. And so, miles of stockinette, simple stitches, repetitive stuff is going to be where I need to be right now. And, hopefully things get better in the world, get better, everywhere soon. And I'll still be knitting simple things, but you know, take comfort where you can get it. Take your self-care where you can get it. And don't ever like apologize to people for using the good stuff, for splurging on some yarn or fabric if you don't have something in your house that you've been holding on to, which I bet you probably do, but if you don't, you know, and you have the financial means to go ahead and buy something nice to make something that'll make you happy while you're making it and while you're using it in the future, I feel like this is the time for that. And just, again, deriving comfort from what you can, and if the world's not giving it to you, you need to give it to yourself. So, and that's part of what crafting is for. Like, we make beautiful stuff, but we know that there are mental health benefits to creativity and to making things, and having that stuff that we've made, you know, to anchor us. It's, you know, mindfulness, it's relaxation, it's stress relief, it's creativity, self-expression. It's a way to like work through things, whether you're literally working through it, you know, by thinking about it, or working through it on the needles, you know, whatever that is for you. And I am going to pause here just a second and open this door because there's a cat. Who would like to go out? That is also why I'm in the rolling chair today, because she's napping. Are you going? She's napping in the chair that I normally sit in, which is normally at my sewing machine. But I wanted to talk while I had a quiet minute. So yeah, I mean, that's mainly the thing that I wanted to talk about today, was just, you know, and if you're feeling all of that stress and worry and anxiety about the world and stuff, and finding that you're not getting comfort from your creative endeavors in a way that you normally would, then maybe it's time to evaluate that and be like, okay, well, what do I want to be making instead? And sometimes the answer is nothing. I will like say, as much as I value creativity as a process and as it's part of daily life, no matter what's going on in your life, sometimes it's just not the, you know, you really truly feel like you just don't want to. And that's okay for a little while, but don't allow that to become, I used to be a crocheter, or I used to love doing cross stitch and I don't anymore because life got hard and I just gave it up and I stopped, you know, I stopped doing it. I got out of the habit and now I just don't anymore. You know, for a few days a week, that's okay, but don't let it, the not making, become a habit, because the making is really valuable to you. At least it is to me, and I hope that it is to you too. So I'm kind of getting in gear for vacation reading, which will probably be the topic of next week's video, but I'm currently reading The Amber Spyglass, which is the third book of the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. I'm pretty sure I read the second book on my last vacation. I can't remember if I read the first one or the second one. But I tend to get into some like genre or young adult kind of things when I'm on vacation. And I had finished Cloud Cuckoo Land, I guess, and I didn't have anything like all the books I was looking for on the library, on my library's ebook borrowing system. Everything I looked for didn't exist, or there were holds, long holds on them, and so I was just like, okay, I'll just read this. It'll tide me over. And then I just got a hold in for The Firekeeper's Daughter, so I'll be reading that next. Watching is the same, Station 11, and I have one episode of Big Little Lies left, so I need some new workout material. If you've got a show that you're liking, I would love to hear about it. I've got a few other things on my list, and when I run out of shows, I just usually will like look at random documentaries on that Netflix suggests to me. which is like how I ended up watching Pretend It's a City. And I've watched a lot of music documentaries that way, because I'm like, I like that person, I'll watch this, whatever. So yeah, I think that's all for this week. I hope that you will consider, if you're feeling like the world is a little too much right now, that you will consider like what your needs are in terms of comfort crafting. Like, do you want something simple? Do you want something complicated that takes your mind off things? Do you want a little of both in the same project? And also just the kind of project that would be comforting, and the materials and the colors. I feel like a lot of times we don't even necessarily use the colors that we like the best. Like, I would tell anybody that green is my favorite color, and I didn't need a green sweater until 2021. So, think about that. And if there's something that feels like you would really like, or maybe there's a project you've always wanted to do that you've put off for whatever reason, and now might be the time to do it as like a little treat for yourself. Because I feel like, if modern life teaches us anything, it's that we don't know the time we have, and we don't know how long we're going to be physically able to do the things that we love. And so, use the nice yarn and the pretty fabric and make the things that you've always wanted to make, because you can, right? So anyway, I hope that you have a good week and that you stay safe and healthy, and I will see you here again next week for more crafty goodness.